You are listening to the People First podcast.
People First is a self-advocacy group run by people with learning disabilities, and People First podcast is a platform to raise awareness about real issues that affect people with learning disabilities in our community and all around the world.
We aim to inform and entertain our listeners by interviewing interesting guests and talking about the things that really matter to us. This is like having a stage to speak out and get our voices heard.
Welcome to the People First podcast. Today, we have the absolute pleasure of welcoming Billy Pearce back for a second show.
Well, thank you for asking. I must have done all right, else you wouldn't have asked me back, would you?
Thank you so much for joining us again, Billy. We hope you all have as much fun as the last time we spoke to you. How are you doing today?
I'm all right, thank you very much. Not too bad. Just starting to get ready now for the next Panto run, which is very late this year. So I've got a lot to do. I've got a whole script to look at. Where have I put it? Oh, it's in the office, I think. I printed it out yesterday. That's the closest I've got up to now.
We have a few more questions for you, and we're going to try not to ask you anything twice.
It doesn't matter. I can have a different answer.
Who taught you music, acting, comedy? How did you get so good at it?
Well, my mum had a big dancing school when I was a little boy, and they were always short boys. And so I used to get roped in. So my earliest memory was being 6 years old as a Siamese twin in The King and I at the Empire in Leeds, which is gone. And then really, I never thought about going into show business, but as time went on, I loved the theatre and I worked backstage at the Grand and various other things and did amateur stuff, but then finished up going to Butlins. But so my mum taught me dancing at first, but everything else I've kind of taught myself. You learn by experience and all that. But I was lucky to be able to be taught to dance. It's always stood me in good stead, that has. But the rest of it, I've never had a singing lesson or a guitar lesson or a ukulele lesson. I just teach myself, which means I'm not very good at anything.
What would you have been if you didn't have a career on stage?
That's a difficult question, because I don't know. When I left school, I worked on the parks as a garden labourer when I was 16, and I didn't have a clue where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. And then I got somebody organised me a job in a factory in Leeds, cutting glass to make glass bottle moulds out of cast iron. So it was a horrible job in a factory, and all the dust and I didn't enjoy it. I never wanted to work in a factory, but the job was kind of given to me as almost like a present, really. But then I got into a big motorbike accident and was nearly killed. And I had to start all over again. I missed a year of my education, and I started again. And I think if I hadn't have had the motorbike accident, I'd probably been an engineer now, working wherever, because in them days you could go to Australia or Africa, or the engineers that were trained up were in big demand all over the world. So who knows where that would have led me. But instead I went to Butlins as a redcoat, and we used to catch people climbing over the fence and then send them back to finish their holidays. And the rest is history. I started doing the clubs, not seriously. I just wanted to do something right. And then I got the bit between my teeth, and I wanted to get better and better, and then my comedy started taking over. So it kind of just happened. I never really wanted to or thought that I'd ever be like I am now. with all these years behind me, having a good career out of it. I never thought that would happen, but it has, and I'm still here. I've been lucky, very lucky.
That's nice.
So I don't know what I'd be doing if I didn't do this, to be honest. And I'm getting to the point now where, and I'm not as busy, so it's show business is a bit depressing at the moment. There's lots of clubs and places shutting, and people aren't spending the money. And so I've just had a tour. I was supposed to be all over the country, but a lot of it got cancelled because nobody bought tickets. So, 30 people up in Carlisle, it weren't worth. I've never cancelled before, so that's kind of depressing. But in COVID, I couldn't. Lots of my friends in show business did other jobs, like driving delivery vans or taking people to the doctors and that kind of thing. But because of what's happened to me in the past, I was high risk, so I couldn't do anything. But even if I did, I'd probably be too old and that now. So I'm not even qualified to drive a van. All I can do is this. I'm caught between a rock and a hard place, really. So I don't know. Although I think having an ordinary job is, you don't have the pressure, I don't think, that you do, doing what I do. It's very pressurising. You worry about it all the time, and if they're going to like you and all that sort of thing. And I mean, I did the club the other night. They were all so drunk, nobody was listening. They were all shouting out and all that. And I was a bit fed up about it. I thought, what am I doing all this for at my age? And that was for charity as well. So it does make you wonder. But then when I sit and think about it, there's nothing else I could do except this, really. I'm good at it. It's about the only thing I can get right. But so I don't know what I'd do if I didn't do this. I'm too old to start again. Although allotments are starting to look attractive.
What is your best performance you ever given?
Well, I always do my best every time I go on. So, there's times when things aren't right, or like I said, the audience are drunk or whatever, and you try your very hardest, but it's difficult. And then there's sometimes when you can have a theatre full of people all listening and hanging on every word, and it's like heaven to me. It's wonderful to have that power and that. So, I mean, I've done some big things in my life, if you call that the best, and things that I've enjoyed. But also, because I get so nervous, so when I've done things like the Royal Command show, or I've worked at the Palladium in London and stuff, I'm so terrified that I don't enjoy it. It's a big relief when it's all over. But then one year, a long time ago, I sang in Hyde Park. They asked me to sing, which I'm not known for being a singer, but I can sing. And there was 130,000 people in front of me, which was pretty, 300-piece gospel choir behind me and an orchestra. And it was like one of those rock concerts with the big screens at either side of the stage and all that. And I was terrified, but as it got going, I loved it. I did. I didn't want to come off. So that was a big night. And that night was the day when I'd finished, and with all Gloria Hunniford and people like that introduced me. But when we'd done, not just me, there was lots of other artists as well. We were taken in a fleet of white Range Rovers across Hyde Park to a big marquee. And you couldn't take anybody with you, so it was just me. And we stood in this big tent, and they said, whatever you do, don't approach her. And it was the Queen and Prince Philip, and they just came wandering round and stood and chatted to me for a while. And it was very, the weirdest. I couldn't believe I was just stood there holding the Queen's hand, and Prince Philip. So that was a big, a night that even now I look back on it, I think, did that really happen? Did it really happen? And afterwards, people were coming up to me and saying, what was you talking about? Because she seemed to be there for a long time, Queen and Prince Philip. But in all honesty, I couldn't remember. If you meet somebody really famous like that, and I'm just the same as anybody else, I was so awestruck. I just kind of stood there with my mouth open. Couldn't believe that the woman that I'd grown up with all my life, the Queen, was stood in front of me talking and laughing with me. And, you know, I've met quite a few of the royal family, but that was a special one because it was private as well. You know, it wasn't televised or nobody knew about it. You weren't allowed to take any pictures or... But it was, you know, there were only people that you wanted to meet, which was, you know, one of the... I suppose, I'm not particularly a royalist, but I'm very proud of that. And, the times when I have met the royal family, and I can't remember what they've said or anything because I'm just stood there with my mouth open. But, I love the Alhambra, of course. I've had some brilliant nights there. And the Grand Theatre in Blackpool, I did 20 years of lovely summer seasons and worked with some fabulous people there. They always had, people like the Osmonds, the Nolan sisters, John Inman. Who else did I work with? Linda Lusardi, what do we call him now? Oh, Jerry Marsden, Jerry and the Pacemakers, when he was number one in the charts with You'll Never Walk Alone. And we finished on that. So there was loads of people, the nights when I've stood there and I can't believe how lucky I am to be there, really. The thing is, you're only as good as the night that, it's just a fleeting moment. It's not like making something or writing something so you can look back and see it written down or you've made something. It's only for that night. Sometimes I stand on there and think, if I could bottle this lovely applause and sound, put it in a bottle, and then one day when you're too old to do it anymore, you could open the bottle and have a listen. But you can't do that, of course. But it would be lovely to be able to do that, because that's what it's all about. It's all about the moment, really.
You have been rehearsing for a play recently. Could you tell us more about it?
Oh, well, that finished about a week ago. We did 10 days, and I did it. It's a little theatre in Barnsley called the Lamp Room, and it only seats 200 people. But I do it once or twice a year in my adult show, and I love it. And they've got a little company there that puts plays on. And the fella that I work for in pantomime, I worked with him, he was Ugly Sister and he's been Dame and that. And he's from Barnsley and he's part of these players. And I kept saying to him, why don't we do something together? Anyway, because it's a little theatre, I did it for nothing. And we had about 2 or 3 weeks rehearsals. There was no professionals in it, but all lovely, talented people. So there was me and 4 others. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, for five of us all together. And it was all about dustbin men. And it's called Trashed. And so I was a dustbin man. And it was very funny, but also sometimes very sad, as well as socially commenting. So one of the bin men was very angry about politics and the Prime Minister and referendums and, all the stuff that goes on, and was forever angry about it. But he was a football player and all that. And another man was always interested in reading books, and he was quite educated, but so he knew a lot about Latin and things like that, and Shakespeare, and was always commenting on stuff. And me, I was just more or less myself, really. So it was a good show, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I did it for nothing. And we did 10 days, and they rung me up the other day to tell me that we'd raised £35,000 for the theatre, which is a lot of money, isn't it? Yeah, so we got 35,000. So next time I go back, they're going to let me have the whole ticket money instead of a cut. So, even though I did it for nothing, sometimes you have to give to receive.
I came to the relaxed performance of the pantomime and thought it was great. What made you and the cast come up with the idea?
It's not original. Other people have done it. I've done them before in other towns, but in Bradford. So the first time we did it a few years ago, there was only a few people in. And the idea is that people who've got problems, whatever they might be, that might be upset by the loud noises and the bangs and the bright lights and the volume of it all, could come and see the show without us doing any pyrotechnics, loud bangs, flashing lights and all that. Well, so the first time we did it, only a couple of 100 people came. But then as time's gone on, it's got more and more full. So there's lots and lots, it's grown over the years. And it's one of those things that at first, because you think that pantomime is all about the kind of loudness and the bright lights and the pyrotechnics and the special effects, and the, how's it going to work without all that? But somehow it does. And like, I don't want to sound as if I'm being, but you think in your own, because I worry about things, and I think, I hope they're going to like us, and is it going to be difficult? Are the people going to be shouting out and running about? Because they don't have to sit in the seats. They can go for a walk or go outside if they're getting upset or they're finding it difficult. They're welcome to move about. So there's a lot of that. So it's out of my sort of experience. You kind of expect people to sit in the chair and listen and watch and all that. But when you've done it, the looks on their faces, and especially the carers who work so hard to look after people and to give them that sort of respite, if you like, and enjoy the show so everybody can enjoy it as well. It's a fantastic feeling. So you don't, whenever I've done it, I don't think, I wish I hadn't done that. I always think I'm really glad that we did that because people love it. And also it's very expensive to go and see the pantomime. So I think that they let them come in for, either cheap or for nothing. I'm not quite sure because that's not my side of it. But it gives people a chance to see the pantomime that normally wouldn't be able to come and see it. And so I think that's a good thing, not a bad thing. I haven't heard anybody complain about it, really. So it's good to be. It's like we always go to the Bradford Royal and visit the kids at Christmas in our panto outfits. And when you're doing 2 shows every day, and it's really hard work to get up early in the morning and put your panto outfit on and then cross all right through Bradford and you're feeling a fool in your panto outfit, to go and visit these kids in the children's ward. But you come away, we always take a load of like little presents and things for them. But I'm always happy that we've done it. It's never something that you come away from thinking, I wish I hadn't done that. And it's the same with the relaxed performances, which I think are very important. And it's always lovely to give something back.
During your performance for us adults and families, which favourite? How different?
Well, the adult show is for adults, not for children. Not because although I do swear a bit. Well, it's for it's adults, so there's a lot of adult humour in it that you wouldn't do in a pantomime or in a summer season family type show, when there's kids in. So I'm lucky really that I can do both. And I enjoy when it's going all right, apart from like the other Friday when they were all drunk and all that and I didn't enjoy it. But I like it, the freedom to be able to say what I like, really. Although there are nowadays a lot more restraints on comedy. You have to be very careful what you do say nowadays with, this woke side of it. And some of it's gone a little bit too far. But so I'm very careful of, what I do, even though it is risque, very, it's blue, the adult show. But obviously it's horses for courses and I have to work. So some people think I just do pantomime for 12 months of the year. Well, I can't afford to do that. I do my pantomime and I love it. But then I'm straight into, going on at 10:30 at night to a load of drunk people. And you can't take any prisoners. You've got to be in charge of them. So I enjoy both. If it's going well, that's the main thing. If they're laughing and they're enjoying it, I'm happy then. That's the main. It's wonderful to be able to entertain people, but sometimes they don't want to be entertained, and that can happen more, I would say, in the adult side of it. But it's getting more like that in theatres as well now that they're allowed to drink, for instance, during the show, and they start shouting out because they've had too much to drink. So it does happen in theatres as well as but generally speaking, it's the clubs. I like to get on. I think the timing's very important. That club the other night, the fella that went on before me did too long, and it made it late by the time I went. So it means they've had more drink. So I knew before I went on I was going to have a tough time because it was getting too late. But when it works, don't particularly have a favourite. I mean, there's nothing like pantomime, for instance. I mean, the summer seasons have gone, but I don't know if anybody saw the pantomime last year with Dr. Range, and we couldn't have the kids in it or all that because of COVID. But we worked very hard on the pantomime, and it was very difficult. We all had to wear masks. There was no social life, no going out for drinks or quiz nights like we have, all that sort of thing. We have to be very, very careful. And so that side of it was very emotional, the show, because we hadn't done one for 2 years. And the audience picked up on it. There was very strong songs and stuff in it. And right at the end, the amount of people standing up, standing ovations, I've never known as many. It was very, I had lumps in my throat and all that. It was very emotional for me to stand on that stage and could see how much people had enjoyed the show, how much they loved it. It's you can't beat it, really. It's just, that's all that matters, isn't it? To people like me, an ideal night for me is when you go to a club or a venue and everybody's happy with you. They all have a good laugh. And then the man comes to pay you at the end of the night with a smile on his face. And he says, "When can you come back?" And that's a perfect night then, isn't it? Because it means everybody goes home happy, including me.
Who inspires you in your work?
Not too many people. When I grew up, people that you won't remember, but like Norman Wisdom, Tommy Cooper, Morecambe and Wise, all those kind of old-fashioned people, obviously when I was a kid, and they used to make me laugh. George Formby were another one, all his films when I was a kid. And then when I started looking at comedy, there was two comedians that one's from, he lives in Blackpool now, and I even went to see him. I think it was last Sunday, and he's called Mick Miller, and he's got a bald head, but he's got long hair, so he's called the long-haired, bald-headed bloke because he's got a bald head and all the side bits are really long, and he's funny. And I always looked up to Mick, and he's got great comedy timing and all that. And another one's called Johnny Casson, who's from Halifax, I think. I think he lives over in Blackpool now. But they were lovely comedians, as comics. And then in the past, it'd be Bruce Forsyth, an all-round entertainer, or Sammy Davis Jr., those kind of people. Not so many of the new comics today, although I like Lee Evans, because he always reminded me of Norman Wisdom. And I knew his dad as well, believe it or not, Dave Evans, who was a very talented man. I don't know if he's still working, but he played lots of instruments and did comedy and stuff. Very talented. So I try not to be influenced by people because I don't want to either pinch their material or work like them. When I first started, I found myself pinching a joke here, there and everywhere, telling it like the person who had pinched it off. And what I didn't realise was that what I needed to do was find my own comedy person, which was basically myself, and do the gags my own way and try and find my own material rather than pinching a joke here, there and everywhere, which everybody does when they first start. But I soon learned that you can't do that. So that was I think one of the hardest things was to find my own persona, my own self, which when it dawned on me that it was me, I've been looking everywhere. I mean, I've had nervous coughs on stage, so when I'm halfway through a joke, I'd be doing that. And I've had sometimes with a slight lisp, because I thought that was funny if I sounded me edges like that, which obviously that went out the window. And, I was trying to find, just to make people laugh, and that's all. But obviously when I found out it was myself, it was a bit of a revelation, really. The easiest thing was just to be myself and not be anybody else. So I don't watch a lot of comics because, in all honesty, because I'm old school and I've been around a long, long time and I've grown up with all these people, they're not my cup of tea, a lot of them. So, I tend to watch it for a bit and then click it off because it's not my cup of tea. And I've had my day. I know I've done well and all that, but and there is a market for my style of comedy. And nowadays, because there's not many of us left. I mean, I'm the only one from the 80s that haven't been arrested.
Is there a role that you've never played which would be your dream role to play?
Mr. Cellophane in, what is it now? I can't remember the name of the show. Obviously, I'm getting old now. So, like in the pantomime this year, I can't be Aladdin, Jack in Jack and the Beanstalk, whereas normally in the past, I would be Aladdin or Jack or Buttons well, now because I'm old, and, the girl that plays the romantic girl, it would be young and beautiful. It wouldn't look right. Me chasing round after her. So I'm like this year, Jack in Jack and the Beanstalk, I'm Jack's dad. So I'm Farmer Billy. So, but I used to love playing those roles where I was the hero, where I got the girl at the end and all that. I loved all that. But obviously now I'm old, I've got to be somebody's dad, or, they keep threatening to put me in a frock and all that, which I do not want to do. To play a dame. When you're a dame or ugly sister. So it's men dressed up as women, and you've got to keep getting changed all the time. So you've got loads of quick changes. It's really hard work, and I just I don't want to do all that. It's time to pack up. I've got to put a frock on. But anyway, I'm still energetic. So in the scripts, which I've seen, and I've done it before, is when I come on a hoverboard. I don't know if anybody's ever seen me do that. So they've got me down for that again on the hoverboard. Well, there's not many 70-year-old men that can fly about on a hoverboard. So I'm still, there's some life left in me at the moment. But all that, I think I've done everything, really. One of my favourite ones, I was in a show called Boogie Nights when I worked with the Osmonds and stuff, who were a massive band in the time, as big as Michael Jackson at one point. And there's I had to play a serious part and sing serious songs and act and all that. There was a bit of comedy and all that, but I loved all that. I liked, and there was another one with Darren Day and all that, and that was called Stand Up, and that was all about comedians. And I was the old comic that people had pinched their act and all that. But I loved that. It was serious, quite serious as well. So I like doing things that are challenging, like the play I've just done, Trash. That was totally, I had a massive long speech right at the beginning, all about how my dad was a bin man. Somebody else goes, yes, it's true. My father was a dustman, gone now to that great tip in the sky. But his bin lid has been passed down to me like a baton of honour from father to son. And so it's a long thing all about how I became a bin man and all that. Well, it's not it's challenging to do it because you've got to remember it. It was like 2 pages. And you've got to stick to what they've written. You can't just write it yourself. So it was how I didn't talk. A lot of it was how I didn't talk. So right at the end, it would say, but meanwhile, back here in the new millennium, as sure as Kilimanjaro rises over the Serengeti, the old tip still stands like Mount Olympus, proud yet pungent. I am but one of its humble custodians, me and these lads, knights in high-vis armour. It's all that. It's all like that. But it was a challenge, and I loved it. And that if you do the same thing all the time, the only thing what I would say on this tour that I've just done, and a lot of it got cancelled because nobody wanted to see me. I went to Bridlington, and that was a good night, that. And I pulled up outside, and a man came up to me as I was getting out the car with a couple of kids and said, can we have a picture and all that? And I've come to see the show. And I said, no, with these kids. He said, yeah, we've got tickets. So because I do different things like pantomimes, summer seasons and family shows, as well as my adult show, they get mixed up. It's not, if you book Chubby Brown, you're going to get Chubby Brown. But with me, I have to put different heads on. So the poor man has to say, well, it's not suitable for kids. It's not a kids show. And they should have told him. When I looked through all the theatres that I was going to, a lot of them didn't tell people that it should have been for over 18s or it's not suitable for kids, which is, it puts me in a horrible situation then. But it's because I do different things and, people don't realise that, like that man, I can't do 2 hours worth of family, clean, whiter than white stuff. Because in my adult show, I do over 2 hours with a 20-minute interval. So it's a long time to be up there. And if I messed everything out that you're not supposed to say, there'd only be 20 minutes left.
What comedy shows do you like?
Well, like I say, I don't really watch a lot of comedy. I like that Not Going Out. Bobby Ball was a mate of mine, so it was nice to see him playing wonderful parts and stuff. No, I think Gogglebox, we watch that now and again.
Would you be on Gogglebox?
Yeah, Gogglebox. We'll have a look at that.
Could you see yourself being on Gogglebox, Billy, sat in front of the TV?
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I'm really boring. I kind of watch Discovery Channel, more sort of educational stuff or crime things. I like crime things. So what have been Meet, Marry and Murder, where they marry somebody and then they bump them off to get the money or the insurance money or whatever. And all that. I'm a bit boring. I watch a lot of that kind of stuff. So I'm not a comedy person, really. Well, it's like if I was like that all the time, people around you get fed up, wouldn't you? You've got to be, they always say comedy is a serious business. You have to think about it, comedy. So I'm sorry that I'm not much help in that department about who would I watch and all that.
Have you always been based in Yorkshire, and have you ever worked in other countries?
I have worked in other countries in the past, a long time ago. Not many. I've been to Spain and worked over there, did one gig. Isle of Man, I went to Spain. Oh, and when I was in a double act a long time ago, in the 70s, I did a tour of Norway, of all things. It was like a song and dance act I were in, and I absolutely hated it. We seemed to be on a lot of money at the time. It seemed a lot of money, but when we got there, we found out that the money over there, it didn't go anywhere. So what we were getting paid was less than a cleaner or, really, we had no money and all that. But so I have worked abroad, but not very much. I thought about doing cruise ships at one point, but I'm not. I don't know. I don't like going away. I very rarely get out of Yorkshire, to be honest, unless it's on missionary work. But I'm happy the way things are. I could do with a bit more work, but I don't really try. No, I don't go abroad, work abroad, or mainly pretty much Yorkshire most of the time. Like I said about that tour, they had me booked over in St Helens, Carlisle, Oswald Twistle, Romford down in Essex. Well, nobody's heard of me. I said that to him when he started putting the tour together. I said, they won't know who I am. And it's hard enough up here to try and sell tickets. And, of course, I was right. It's been awful having to answer people's emails, people that did buy tickets to come and see it. And the theatre didn't tell them. And then they've turned up on the night and I haven't turned up. So it makes me look really bad. But it wasn't my fault, It was awful. It's embarrassing, really. But, that's what happens. I've got a good name in Yorkshire, round here, because of my pantos, and I've been going for that long now. I've done all work in mental clubs. I mean, I went to this theatre in Barnsley last night to see an old rock and roll band called The Foremost. And my friend's the singer in The Foremost. And it was good. It was in this theatre in Barnsley, not the one I did the play in, but another little theatre. And everybody was coming up to me. I had as many pictures taken of me as what The Foremost did. And, it was lovely. And people remembering seeing me 30 years ago and things like that. They always tell me stories about what happened. I can't remember because it happened, but they remember. It's lovely to be. I'm a big fish in a little pond, really. That would be a good way of putting it. I am a big fish in a little pond. I was going to go to the Royal Armouries on Saturday. I was one of the judges on the Make a Difference Awards, but I've had COVID, so I couldn't go. I couldn't go. I haven't done a test today, but I feel all right. But I've had COVID, and loads of things have happened. My stepfather of 40 years, I looked after him, and he was 94. And a couple of weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago now, it was his funeral. I had to organise all that, and it was just, loads of things like that have been happening. So I've had a lot on my plate, really.
Drama and music are very important. How can we encourage people, particularly those with disabilities, to join in?
I think for anybody, drama, music, playing instruments, it's a good thing to do. It doesn't matter if you're not very good, but it builds your confidence. It's a bit like kids going to dancing school as kids. It gives them confidence, and even if you're not going to be an entertainer or be in show business, it still helps. So, for instance, my son, who's 22, on Wednesday, he was 22. But when he was little, he did a couple of pantos with me at the Alhambra. When he was a little kid, he was one of the Sunbeams. And he did probably 4 or 5 pantos till he was too tall to be a Sunbeam. And he did think about going into showbiz, but I was never too bothered about him doing it because I know how hard it is and how, it can break you. And but it's given him confidence. So when he went for a job and he had to do a speech type thing of why he wanted the job, he didn't have any problems with that because he'd already been on a big stage and, it gave him the confidence. So I think for anybody, even if it's people who've got problems and stuff, it's great because also it's a team building thing as well. If you can work with other people. And I think nowadays people are becoming much more open to people who are, maybe physically or mentally handicapped in some way. It's now becoming more... In fact, I've just seen that thing on the telly. There's a play, isn't there, between a couple that get married. It's just come out now.
Oh,
yeah.
I did.
That's it. I haven't watched it. Has anybody watched it?
Yes.
Did you think it was all right?
Yes.
Well, I think that's important. But, where have those people come from that play those parts? They must have had a little bit of training, a little bit of, something, because you can't just leap into something like that without that. But I do think nowadays it was kind of a very closed shop when I first started 50 years ago, whereas nowadays it's much more open. for anybody, and people are much more prepared to accept things that they never thought they would. You know, things have changed. It's a different world now to what it has been in the past, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It's good for everybody. So for anybody that wants to do a bit of performing or to read like you've done today, you know, you've had a big thing to do today. You've written those questions, which are brilliant, and you've had to read them out to me and make me understand. It's all good for you as well. It's good for me, but it's good for you as well to be able to do that, because it's quite pressurising. Even doing what you've done is pressurising. So you're challenging yourselves, and once you've done it once, the next time you do it, it's easier, and the next time you do it, it's easier again, and you become more relaxed and all that. I'm terrible with nerves. I get so nervous, me. I really do. I'm absolutely petrified.
What do you do to chill out off stage?
If it's a gig, what I call a gig, which I like an adult show, and I have to go and do some club somewhere, so I have a man that I've got a van with a sound system in it, and a man that drives it all, and he takes it to the club or the venue, and in the afternoon about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and sets it all up ready for me. And then he'll tell me what time I'm. So I'm very lucky like this. So say I'm on at 9 o'clock. He's been there since 4 o'clock, sets it all up, then gone to get himself something to eat. And then I get there about 8 o'clock, go on for 9 o'clock, do an hour and a half, 10:30, get me money, hopefully, and then I get in my car, if I can, and come straight home. So then I'm either on a high or a low, because depending on how the gig has gone, if they like me or they don't like me. And I get home, and I've got it's actually half my garage, and it's a little recording studio, and I'd like playing the guitars and stuff like that. So I go in there, and although I've stopped drinking now for the last 3 months, but in the past I'd have a drink and wait for them to come back, because they've got to set all the stuff up, and they play guitars and stuff. So we'd sit in there and chill out and have a laugh and analyse the night, and that's it, really. I haven't had a holiday or out like that for a long time. I can't remember the last time I had a holiday because I didn't have any money, because I didn't work because of COVID. No, I went out for the first time because it was my son's birthday. So I took him to a restaurant, just me and him, and we had a nice dinner and that. But I haven't been out like that for a long time. Unless I've gone to see, like I went to see Foremost last night, and somebody that I know working. I go and see him and try and get myself out of here, because most of the time I'm on my own. Like, he's at work now. He's my lad. I pick him up at 3:30. So, because he's lost his driving licence, driving too fast.
Do you like the Alhambra Theatre in Bradford?
I love it there. There's I've worked in lots and lots of different places. My other favourite theatre is the Grand in Blackpool. And also Wakefield Opera House for comedy is great. And there was a man that used to build theatres in the 1800s. He was called Frank Matcham. And he built and designed places like the London Palladium, and all these wonderful, quite a few of them are still left. But they're great to work, those kind of theatres, proper theatres. So the Alhambra is breathtaking. And there's loads of times when I will stand, like, say, between shows, and everybody's either gone to sleep or they've gone out to get something to eat, or in between shows, you have a couple of hours, and there's nobody around. And the crew set up for the first scene, for the next show, and then they go out or they'll go somewhere. So there's nobody in the theatre at all, or in the dressing rooms. And I stand on the middle of that stage sometimes and just look out at the auditorium and feel it. It's just a wonderful... I know it all sounds a bit arty-party, passionate stuff, but I do love it, and I'm lucky to be able to do that. And I have to do a lot of places that you wouldn't really want to do, where they haven't got a dressing room or any facilities, and no stage, no lighting, no, and all that, and everybody's drunk. But sometimes those beautiful theatres, you just think that's why I've done all this. It's to be able to stand here. And you think about all the famous people that have stood there, wonderful, talented, brilliant people that have stood in that same spot. So I've got in my snug, I've got a bit of memorabilia and all that from what I've done. I don't have it all around the house, but my different awards and stuff. But one piece I've got is a little bit of wood. It's about that long, like that, and about that thick. And it's from the centre of the stage when they replaced the stage at the City Varieties in Leeds, which is one of the oldest musical theatres. Well, the people that have walked on that bit of wood, I mean, everybody's that you could think of dating back 100 and odd years have stepped on that piece of wood. So even though it's just a little piece of wood, it means such a lot to me that. Laura Nardi and people like that have walked on it. And, it's just, I get a bit, not emotional, but there's just something about theatres and it's almost like it's alive. So not everybody feels that way. And sometimes I'm disappointed because you get people coming in on youth training or youth opportunities or whatever these government schemes, and they'd get people to come and on stage, which is a very dangerous place to be, actually, the stage, if you don't know what you're doing. But they get somebody to shadow them and look after them, and they have to, wear the right equipment and all that. And so, not every time, but sometimes they're totally unmoved by the experience. Because when you see it from the wings, what you call the wings, the side of the stage, lighting, the sound, you see people getting nervous before there's just something magical about it. And to not be affected by it, I just love it. It's just one of them things. Before the show, I always have the speakers on in my dressing room when you can hear the audience. So sometimes, especially in the pantomime, when you can hear the kids and sometimes they're singing along, and all that, you can hear the audience. The microphones pick it up and it feeds it back to my dressing room. You can feel the excitement in the audience. Now, I listen to that because it makes me excited before I go on. It rubs off on you. It's we're lucky to be doing it, but I'm grateful for it as well. I do. I love it. You could probably tell.
Well, that's all we have time for. Billy, thank you so much for coming on our show again and giving us a bit of time to talk to you. It's always a special show where we can have you on, and we'll keep an eye out for your future work to support you from our office. Is there anything else you would like to add before we sign off?
Well, can I just say that really touched me, that, love, and to me that's what it's all about. And I'm going to say well done to you guys for doing what you've done today, and thank you to Adam for organising it all. And it's a very important thing for me as well, because I like to find out what you guys think about us types of people, and that kind of thing. So and you've all done brilliant. Thank you, love. So, and the same to you guys and all. It's been lovely talking to you, and thank you for making me so welcome, and well done with all those questions and that. You've done absolutely brilliant.
Thank you, Billy. Goodbye, and have a nice rest of your day.
Bye.
Welcome.
Bye.
Love you.
Wow. When at get the show we had to today, please found and share the podcast. Show many people able to hear when we are doing you can so follow us. Me look for the Pearce on podcast in Facebook and Twitter. Thank of listening, and we'll see you in the next show.